How to build a rocket 101. Step 1. Fiberglassing. What if I told you there was a material that acts and feels like a wool cloth, but has the tensile strength of a pane of glass? Fiberglass is a composite material made from extremely fine fibers of glass. Because of its lightweight nature and high strength, fiberglass is commonly used in industries such as aerospace, construction, and automotive. Additionally, fiberglass can be molded into intricate shapes and is often used as a reinforcement material in composite structures. Because of its combination of strength and lightness, I'll be using fiberglass as a reinforcement material for the body of my model rocket. Fiberglass is resistant to heat and various chemicals, which are encountered during engine ignition and flight. This resistance helps protect the model rocket and ensures that everything is structurally sound throughout multiple launches. And making sure that our rocket doesn't do this.
NASA cares to count. This morning, it looked as though they were not going to be able to get off.
The general plan for this step is to wrap a large sheet of fiberglass around the cardboard tube and then attach it using an epoxy adhesive. Here are the materials you'll need for this fiberglass project. 2 large cardboard tubes, a few sheets of fiberglass, epoxy resin, epoxy slow hardener, a foam spreader, and some packaging tape. Usually, large sheets of fiberglass can be found at most Home Depot stores at relatively cheap prices. As for the epoxy adhesives, it's important to note the proper application and curing time for each type of epoxy. I personally get my resin and hardener from Total Boat, which has a curing time of about 24 hours. So the first step of doing this fiberglass is to create the structure to wrap the sheet around. I did this by connecting 2 cardboard tubes and taping them together with a few layers of packaging tape. Next, it's time to prepare the fiberglass. Lay down the sheet flat on the table, then measure out the dimensions you'll need for your rocket. For this measurement, multiply the diameter of the tube by pi to get the width, making sure to cut a little bit more than this amount. Now cut out your strip of fiberglass and prepare to lay it over the tube. To get the tube in a good position to apply the adhesive, use a long stick or string to put through the tube and tape both ends to opposite tables. Personally, I used a long piece of wooden string in place of a stick. Then I taped down each side of the tube to make sure that it wouldn't slide around during the process. Now it's time to prepare the epoxy adhesive. First, pour a good amount of epoxy resin into a container before pouring in the slow hardener in about a 2:1 ratio and give it a good mix. To apply the resin, tape down one side of the fiberglass and generously cover the sheet with a foam spreader. This step usually takes around half an hour to do and can get quite messy sometimes. If I could make an adjustment in the future, it would definitely be to put a tarp under the tube so that the resin wouldn't drip onto the floor. After fully covering the tube, let it dry for about 5 hours before coming back for the second layer when it's semi-cured. Then repeat the steps for the first layer, making sure to cover the entirety of the tube with the fiberglass. Once you're finished, let it cure for at least 24 hours. You'll know when it's cured when you press down on the fiberglass and it doesn't get dented. Now remove any fiberglass that's sticking out using either scissors or a Dremel. After that, take some 60 to 100 grit sandpaper and sand down the sides and edges of the tube to remove any excess resin, making sure that everything is as smooth as possible, especially the part where the 2 sheets of fiberglass meet. When everything is smooth, connect your nose cone, and voila, you've completed the primary body of your rocket. Now that you've completed the first step of the building process, you can now move on to designing your wings, programming, avionics, and decorating your rocket. But all of those will come in the next episode of How to Build a Rocket 101.